Forget that every time.
Oh my God, I'm the worst at it. So I'm recording now because this is something we're going to want to um, add to our training library. So, Steve, without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to you and let you do your thing because that's what everybody's here for. They're not here for me.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I'm stoked to talk to you guys tonight. I'm stoked to talk about the comp plan. That's like the only thing I talk about, and I love it. And really, honestly, I think a lot of you guys are going to learn a bunch. And it's kind of crazy now with how everything's changed. Like with what Dean was saying, with all of us kind of collaborating together. That's really how it is when you get to be a business building coach, and especially when you start to really take it up a notch. So these kinds of calls I do for everybody, and there's 15 star diamonds that don't know a lot of the comp plans. So I think for any of you guys who plan to launch a business, this is going to be really beneficial for you, and you're really going to be able to start off on that right foot of doing everything correctly, which I didn't do. We've made a lot of mistakes in this business, and the cool thing, the best part about this business is, when you have something, a sales structure, whatever, where there's no cap on how much you can make. You can afford to make mistakes because ultimately, like, your income is totally in your possession. So really what I want to talk about is I'm going to kind of lay a whole focus on, for me, what I think is like the backbone of how to make money. So on top, there's business centers, there's ranks and bonuses and all that stuff. And we can talk about that too. But I think that if you're not doing this stuff correctly, none of that stuff matters. So first of all, if you guys are a brand new coach looking to launch a business, definitely take everything I say to heart. And even if you guys, maybe you're a little further on, a couple, multi-star diamond or whatever, just remember that this is the most important stuff that you need to be teaching your leaders, because ultimately that's what's going to really fill in that formula of how to build a huge income beyond what you can do by yourself. And to, in memorizing this stuff or taking good notes now is going to really give you a great foundation for what you should be talking about all the time. And more importantly, kind of walking through with your coaches, every month. I mean, the more that you teach this stuff, the better that they're going to be. So the first thing that I want to just say to you guys first is, if you want this, go get it. Okay. Make a plan. 95% of Beachbody coaches don't do that. Okay. They treat this business like it's a lottery ticket. They maybe get some results. They maybe don't. They post something on social media for the first time, and they just kind of sit there like this and hope that a flood of people come. And that's not how it works. That's not how you should expect this to work. When we look at something like really helping people get results and matching people with their fitness goals, the way that you're going to be able to build a business around that is by establishing a lot of credibility. So just by default, when you make that first post or whatever, no matter what your background is, you don't have that established credibility yet. So making a plan to build towards that is really what's going to make all of this work out for you. And I think a lot of you might be kind of questioning, whether I can do this, or hoping for your own success, just because you've seen so many people not find success. And I can very much tell you that most people are not trying like they should. Like, newer coaches, they kind of look at their workload as like, I'm a new coach, so there's not very much I have to do, when that is bullshit. Okay, I'm sorry, there's kids on here. But the biggest thing that you have to look at is, I'm building a new business. And what that means is that as much time as you could possibly put into this is what's required at the beginning. That's how new businesses work. And the objective of that is to get so good at things and to, make your own systems or your own workflow to where a lot of the hard things become on autopilot. And that's what really frees up all your time and allows you to go, help your team build and all this kind of secondary stuff to what your business is primarily. And that's a huge thing. So if you're starting off right now, like, put as much time as you can into this, and you will expedite that learning curve, and you'll really get to where, the sweet spot of where this business is a lot quicker. So that's the first thing I want to say to you guys. But I hope this really builds a vision for what's possible. And really, I'm just going to dive into the foundation of stuff. So number one, In order to build a business, you have to have clients coming in constantly. Okay. So I think right there, if when I see people that want to build a business and who are actually trying, if you're looking at doing the bare minimum a month, you have the wrong mindset and it's really going to constrain your business and hold you back. So really for us, the power behind the business is Success Club. Okay. And not just periodic Success Club, but Success Club every single month. And if you're not doing that, you're not a business building coach. Because I mean, if you look at anybody who has this kind of structure in their paycheck, if they're not constantly bringing in new people, they're not getting paid, right? And in this business, we can kind of get away with that because maybe you don't need that income right away, But if that's you right now, that's where, for me, that's where all of our hobby coaches are. And if you want to do something about that and you want to build a business, just get on track. It's as simple as that. I mean, Success Club is the compound effect. Okay. For those of you guys who haven't read that book, it was maybe one of the first personal development books that I ever read. And it's just, it's probably the most influential that I've ever had too. It's doing little things every single day amounts to accomplishing something over a longer period of time that you couldn't possibly do instantaneously. Right. So it's like, what would your body look like if you did 20 push-ups today? You'd have a little pump. What would your body look like if you did 20 push-ups every single day for the next 2 years? You'd be jacked, right? So that's what the compound effect really does. And that's what Success Club is going to do for your business. So make sure that you're hitting it every single month. And I think if you're not, and if you're struggling with that, give yourself some grace and know that most people and just looking at successful coaches, most people are bad at that at first. And it's just a skill that has to be learned. And I think the biggest obstacle is that it's a little bit uncomfortable transitioning from your warm market to your cold market. You do not want to limit your business to your 300 friends on Facebook when there's 5 billion people on Facebook and Instagram across however many countries that we're open. So if you're what I call cold market comfortable, you now have the landscape to really scale your business up. And that's a weird thing at first. So if that's the spot that you're in right now, just embrace it. I think the more time you put into it, the better you're going to get at it, and the less it's going to really affect you emotionally when you're talking to somebody, or maybe when you get a hard no from somebody or whatever. But it's also a great opportunity for you to reach out to your coaches, because that is what your upline can help you best with, is like learning Success Club, learning how to do reach outs, all that kind of stuff. But doing all this, like that step one of just bringing in clients consistently, that's going to now amount to your commissions. Okay. And the beautiful thing about commissions is that it's what makes the overhead in this business free. Most businesses, you have to put a substantial amount of money in just to get it off the ground. And for us, we need to be active coaches and paying $15.95 on top of it. Right. So if you're hitting Success Club, and for a lot of you guys, maybe there is that financial strain of committing to buying products or whatever. As long as you're hitting Success Club, it's all free. All of your programs are free. All of your products are free, and you can start that foundation of your business just from that standpoint. But we're just talking about commissions. The biggest thing that we want to get into is Team Cycle Bonus. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about that. You've heard about volume, but really what volume is a accumulation of how many people or how many lives you're changing. Okay. Because if Dean wants something that I have and I sell it to him, I get a commission. But if Dean uses this product and gets sick results, he's going to keep buying that product, and I will get residual income from that volume. So that really highlights a lot of very important things. Like, it's not just important to bring people in consistently. It's very important to be able to run good challenge groups, right? And the number one thing with challenge groups, and this is kind of at the forefront of when we look for business building coaches, is you have to get results. Now, you don't have to be in your ideal body to start this business at all. But if, this is a relationship business, so at the very least, if you can just show your social media and be like, hey guys, I really don't know everything about this business. I'm going for it, but look what happened in the last, 60 days of my program that I've been doing. Like that's a very, very powerful thing. And it's going to be the biggest foundation for attracting people into this business and into, you know, the customer base, because ultimately there's a lot of different products out there and people don't know what works or what not. If you can just show them that this works, right there, that value is obvious and they're going to be intrigued. So that's first and foremost. You'll never be very good at running a challenge group unless you're a great participant in a challenge group first. Okay. So results are the biggest thing. And I'm sure you guys have heard that a bunch, but for somebody who's gotten results versus not, there's so many different details that are not shared between the two. Like if I have not gotten results, I'm selling a results or trying to sell a results photo from somebody else. That completely cuts out the whole personal connection. And this is a very, very highly relational business. Okay. So if I can just show that as me, I can just tell people like, hey, this business works. I'll show you how to do it. So that's a really important thing. Bring in clients is going to get you commissions. Getting them results in challenge groups and changing their life is going to give you residual volume. And that's what you're going to be able to maximize. And that's what you're going to be able to ultimately scale up into Team Cycle Bonus. And so I want to just show you guys here really quick what I'm going to share with you, if I can do this, our income progression, because this is not something we post publicly. But Dean and I had a conversation about this. And honestly, we show this to our coaches, and I just like coaches being able to know what's possible. I don't need my family members or whatever to see this stuff, but for you guys, you know, there's a lot of you who are probably thinking, I don't know what is possible in this business. So I just want to show you what's been possible for us. So can we see it? Good. Okay. So this is our income progression for the months of January only over the last 7 years. So obviously it started very, very small and it got very, very big. But what happened in between this is what's important. So Jamie first started, I want to say it was about March or April in 2013. Okay. So, and I will say too, Jamie, you know, worked her ass off to get people results. That was her whole focus. And honestly, my foothold in the business has been helping her, especially at the beginning, to pay attention to this income thing, because she was so good at getting people results that she just didn't really care about the rest. So you can see, we worked at this business for 9 months, hard, consistently, Success Club every single month, like all those things. And then in January, which is, you know, typically the biggest month of the year, we were making about $300 a week. I mean, that's great. Some of you guys aren't there yet. A lot of you guys are, you know, some of you guys are probably past that already. But that's where it started for us. Like that was 9 months of work, and that's not paying more than just a couple bills. I mean, it's going to pay the mortgage and that's it. But this was really when we want to do this full time. So a year later, so we're almost 2 years in the business at that point, and it doubled, which is fantastic. But this whole exponential component wasn't there yet. Okay. So between 15 and 16, that's when we started opening other business centers. So that's when Jamie opened her second business center, which was placed incorrectly. I didn't even know what I was doing back then. And so you can see that whole progression from January 16 to 2020, we have opened a total of 6 business centers, and we have worked to develop leaders in each of those business centers. And that's a really important thing, because as volume rolls up and compounds, you can't do this by yourself. If you want to hit numbers like this, it is going to be tied with your ability to help your coaches make money, not hit diamond, not hit emerald, but get them to make money. Because that, you know, if you want to be a full-time coach, that's what we're here for. We're not here to be broke emerald coaches or whatever. Like a new diamond is not making that much money. You're going to have to really look and push for income. So I want to share with you guys, just so you could get a little bit of vision. I remember when our coach is Rob and Chelsea Pearson, and when they first showed us big numbers, and I forget exactly what it was a couple $100,000, like way back in the beginning. And the first thought that I ever had looking at this is Jamie and I were dating, and I looked at that and I said, you know, that's pretty big. And even if we can do 10% of that, like let's say they were meant to do this and we were not, or maybe they got in early and we didn't, all the kind of crap that you hear, you know? And I just thought to myself, if we can even make 10% of that number, that's going to be massive, right? Like even if it's an extra 10 grand, even if it's extra 20 grand a year, whatever it is, that's going to change our life dramatically. And that was our focus. It wasn't looking at that 131,000 in 1 month and saying like, hey, that's the goal. Like the biggest skill set that we've made for ourselves in this business is simply setting a goal and working our ass off to go hit it. Not huge. Like it went from emerald to diamond, and then it went from diamond to 1 star, and 1 star to 2 star. And then we waited a year, and then 2 star to 3 star, 4 star. Like that's how slow and steady we built. We never took our foot off the gas. Success Club was a non-negotiable every single month. And the crazy thing about that is 2017, in January of 2017 was when we made that 20,000 bucks. And I think that year we ended up making like 400 or something like that. It really went up after that. That was the first year we exceeded Success Club 5. Okay. And so it really goes to show, and not to knock anybody who's crushing that, because that's a skill that everybody wants to have. And we went out and got that for ourselves as well. But it really goes to show you what can happen when you're getting everybody results. Again, that was our secret sauce. That's what Jamie has been best at this whole time, is getting everyone results. So that even if somebody didn't want to be part of the business, they didn't want to be a customer anymore, they were, whether they stayed in or they left our business, they were a walking marketing tool that was just positive about our business. So every single person that was hearing about our business was hearing positive things. You need results? Go to Jamie. Spend 3 months with Jamie and you'll get sick results. And that was just kind of the aura that surrounded our business. And that's how those numbers got so big. So that really highlights, you know, not just bringing in people consistently, but your challenge groups is your audition. Like that is your opportunity to change somebody's life. If you can do that, they're going to contribute to your paycheck for a long, long time because you did something so huge for them. So that's really something, you know, to think about when you don't feel like showing up in your challenge group, or you don't feel like inviting. Like these are the kinds of things that you can do when you just make those skills non-negotiable. So they're very, very important. So that's kind of the backbone of what I want to talk about. But for those of you guys that are pushing hard, I'm going to talk to a little bit higher up coaches now. For those of you guys that are pushing hard and you want this, I want to reframe, you know, maybe what you've heard. If you want a big business, if you want a full-time business, and for me, that's 50,000 bucks a year. I mean, that's what most of us made coming out of college. And a lot of people that I work with, whether they're nurses or teachers or all walks of life, that's about the income they're trying to replace. Like a lot of people aren't happy with what they chose when they were younger. And so they're looking for this to be that supplemental income to be able to get their first foot out the door. So if you want to make 50,000 bucks in this business and you work your butt off and you make sure that these things are non-negotiables, you can do that starting from scratch. And I say 2 years. I've seen a lot of people do it quicker than that. And when I say $50,000 a year, I mean $1,000 a week in just team cycle bonus. I don't really focus on the other stuff. The rank bonuses become very big, but they don't start till 2-star also. The biggest component to this and harnessing your volume is your ability to open multiple business centers. So every single time you hit 2-star, you can open another business center up until you have 25 of them. All right. So there's nobody in the business that has 25. I think the most I've ever heard of between a husband and a wife is like 11, which is super impressive. But essentially what that is when you have all these business centers stacked underneath each other, it is your ability to become your own business builder. So when you make money in one account, it is going to pay and then roll up to your other account and pay again. So every time you hit 2-star, you get to multiply your ability to make, your ability to make money off of a single order. So we have 6 business centers. They're not placed beautifully. And I think the most we have in a row is 4 before it goes strong. But we had to learn that the hard way. We didn't even really get to be doing that correctly until a couple of years in. But sorry, I got off on a little tangent there. But all of this talk starts at diamond. Okay. Don't use diamond as a finish line. And that's probably the number one mistake that I see is people race hard to get to diamond. And as soon as they get there, they expect a raise, right? They expect all these other things to start paying them. And don't get me wrong, diamond is the biggest rank you'll ever hit. It's more important than 15-star diamond because it is your step into the door. But diamond is a structure that you need to be able to harness volume and maximize it. Okay. And if you're not expecting that, you're thinking that you're going to get a raise. And we've probably had 6 or 7 diamond coaches quit because they got to diamonds and they were like, why aren't I making more money? And they didn't understand the fact that this volume, like they needed to be getting people long-term results. So the volume was coming in consistently. If you're not doing a good job in your challenge groups, you are spending more time replacing people than you are adding to your business. That's a really, really huge point. But after diamond, when you solidify that, and for me, that's just extra people. Okay. So if you are a bare bones diamond and you have a couple, you get there, you're super excited. The last, week or two before you hit it, it was probably the most work that you've put into it. And then you hit diamond and then you're like, man, I deserve a cold beer and a 2-week break. You'd be shocked at how many people do that. And what happens? People start going inactive. You lose the diamond, and now you're in a position where you once again have to push to diamond. I can tell you it is 10 times harder mentally the second time, and then the third time, and the fourth time. So if this is your goal, make diamond step 1, and the second you get there, work harder. Work as hard as you can to solidify that and get extra coaches on both sides, extra emeralds on both sides, because that's the point where you can sit and say, okay, my business, my rank is in my control. Now I want to build volume. Where is it at? Where's the big volume? Where's the small volume? Where do I need to start building? And that's really the main focus of what you can do after you're a solid diamond coach. So that's really step 2. Step 1, hit diamond. Step 2, solidify it, start building weak leg volume. Step 3, keep your eye on 2-star. Like 2-star is always our end goal. Okay. And I that's a really important thing for you guys to hear, because it's easy to listen to somebody like me. Like my wife is superstar diamond, 4-time elite, all this stuff, but that stuff is all bonus, right? Like for a lot of you guys and what your income goals or dreams are, you just need to focus on repeating 2-star. That's what it is. Like you can open a second business center, build it to 2-star, open a third business center, build it to 2-star. And like that is our number one function for creating income. Okay. All the other stuff is just above and beyond stuff that we, goals we never had for ourselves that we decided to hit because after 7 years, it kind of got positioned that way. So opening business centers. And the last one is help build leaders. Okay. So I've got a little conversation I want to talk about. That is our leadership funnel of really what we do to look for leaders and how to help them grow. So step 1 is, how do we find leaders in our social media? First and foremost, it's really talking about the business. And this is a chance for you guys to really audit yourselves, because a lot of people don't do that. Okay. You don't need to have a massive income to be able to talk confidently about what this business has done for you financially. You just need to explain like what it's doing. And if you're producing and you're hitting Success Club and you're doing all those things, that means that you have enough income to be knocking off a couple bills. And that right there is a great talking point, because a lot of people would love to do this as a side business and have their car payment done with. Okay. So those, really look for instances where you can share what it's done for you. Don't embellish it. Don't, exaggerate or anything like that. But just share very honestly what it's done for you, and you're going to connect with people who need exactly that. So talk about the business, what it's done for you, and inevitably you're going to recruit more business builders. Okay. When I've had elite coaches who have come to me and, they're sitting at 1-star and they're, so eventually they got to 5-star and they dropped down to 1-star, and they're really struggling with bringing in business builders. And we'll go through their social media, and 100% of the time we'll look back for the last couple months, and they're talking about fitness, they're talking about Girl Squad, they're talking about community, they're talking about all this stuff other than the physical business that's paying them and what it's doing for their life. So make sure that you're very vocal about that. You guys have incredible leadership from that standpoint. I watch all Dean's social media. He's always talking about the business. Make sure you're incorporating that too in an honest way of exactly what it's doing for you. That's step one. That's how we're going to start getting people into our challenge groups who are like-minded like us. Step two is get them results for the same reasons that I talked about. You want them to have the easiest ability to build a business. You don't want this to be any more uphill battle than it has to be, because quite honestly, the beginning of the business is always the hardest. That's where team cycle bonus is fleeting. You don't understand it. There's maybe 3 orders coming in, so you're not seeing cycles consistently every single week. And it's really just hard to understand the compensation plan when you first start, and you don't really feel like you have a voice. You're not confident in your groups because there may be only a couple people there. Whatever that whole hurdle is when you first start, everything gets more fun, more easier, and more lucrative. And that's very impossible to see when you first start. And it's going to be that way for your coaches too. If you can get them great results from the beginning, you're going to pave the way for that process to go a little bit quicker for them. Step 3, I think, is really teach importance of Success Club and hitting Emerald today, right away. Those are 2 things that we really talk about. Is if somebody wants to do this and they say, hey, I'm all about it, what do I have to do? We'll say right away, okay, you need to start hitting Success Club. And for month 1, it's going to be hard. You have 0 credibility. So I want you to open your cell phone. Don't go into Facebook, go into your text messages and find people that would be interested in doing this with you. Not from a coach standpoint, like you're going to be their personal trainer or anything like that, but somebody who loves you and who would, maybe really benefit from doing a program with you, or who would just love the quality time there. So that's how we really like to get people started right, is doing it that way, is get them, those first couple coaches, make it be easy coaches. Ones, if you go to a cold market right away, you're bringing in people that have higher expectations of you. And we don't want that kind of pressure on our new coaches. So if it can be a mom, a friend, an aunt, whatever, let's start building the foundation of a team like that. Let's get on the road to Success Club. Now, if we find those people, the Emerald Today thing is really about the spouse. So if you're married, and I'm sure you guys have heard this a bunch, it is very important for you to know where to put your spouse and do it immediately. And weak leg is what I do. Some people say strong leg. If you're going to be a badass coach long-term, you can do it either way, really. But if you put it on the weak leg right away and keep them active, they're going to start building a strong leg. And that's very, very important for when you start placing a second business center, when you start ultimately building underneath them somewhere. You want that strong leg of theirs to be building, and you want it to start cycling right away. So that's one thing that's important. That's what we cover. And now the reason that we talk about the importance of Success Club immediately in Emerald today is because we like to see who actually does it. And if you have somebody where if I tell you, hey, you want to build this business, you need to get 3 people on, like right now, let's get Success Club going, and who's your Emerald going to be? If they don't do it, there's no commitment to this business, okay? And that's one thing that we need to know, because if you're a business builder of ours, I am all in on helping you build any kind of income that you want, as long as you're all in with me. So we kind of put these filters in there too, to make sure that they're going to do what they need to do. And if they push back on any of that really, really easy stuff, I can tell right away, this person doesn't really have the mindset to do that. Will I still help them? Sure. Will I go all in with them? No. Okay. So that's an important one too. So the 4th step, when you find those people who hit Success Club when you tell them to, and that first month is easy, and then you kind of have to work with them to continually do it. But when you find those people that do that, go all in with them. These are the kinds of people where we don't have boundaries for them. If they message me at 2 o'clock in the morning with a question, I am messaging them at 6 a.m. back to make sure they answer, they have that answer. Open communication is the fastest way to train them. And honestly, our style is one-on-one. Like there is nothing better than training somebody one-on-one. And when we do that and we're training these people, let's say we have a batch of 3 or 4 new business building coaches coming in, we work with them one-on-one and then we throw them in a pod. The biggest thing about this is, and I think this is probably a good tip for some of you guys, is these are the people that Jamie will grab to run her challenge groups. Okay. So we've helped these people get a taste of Success Club. We've done Emerald right away. And now we put them in a position to run our challenge groups with us. And that's an amazing thing because it makes them free to confidently invite. Okay. The last thing we want to do is get a coach who's still figuring out the ropes, push them off into their own zone and just say, hey, go run a challenge group. Guess what they're going to do? They're not going to invite anybody. And they'll tell you they will. They'll tell you they've done their 100, all that kind of stuff. But they are scared of what would happen if everybody came because they don't have the confidence to run that challenge group, okay? So we want them to be in a position to invite very freely. So these are the kind of people that we really dive into all in. And like just recently, that's who Jamie will run all of her free groups with is Emerald coaches, building to diamond. She'll do her sneak peeks. She'll run her challenge groups with them. It's not the top coaches. Like those people have kind of graduated to do their own thing too. So it's really important to kind of bring a business building coach to diamond, get them to the point where they're making great income, and then go back to these new people and put all your focus right there. That's kind of the whole assembly line of like what we usually do. Now, what makes that work really well is because not everybody who just falls into that funnel is just going to be a successful coach. The most important thing is that you always have a next man up. Well, next woman up typically, right? So that's the most important thing is because if you have people that are dragging their feet, they're not really doing what you say, you have no choice but to sit and wait for them if there's nobody else coming, right? How many of you guys are in that boat? I mean, that's probably the most common annoying thing to be is like, I can show these people everything. And since there's no mobility, they're just kind of sitting there dragging their feet. So if you have somebody coming in the challenge group who's crushing it and you can kind of plant that seed of, hey, would you ever think about doing what I'm doing? If you always have somebody coming up, this process always works and it will never stop. Let me grab this here. Oh, so one other thing too. So that's kind of my 4 points of like the leadership funnel and how we get people really started right. But one really important concept is hitting success club, okay? So it's very easy to see somebody who might be a diamond coach who's hitting Success Club every single month and just to assume they know what they're doing, I'm going to leave them be and just kind of let them keep going. But if that person is hitting Success Club at the very end of the month, every single month, they're making it very hard on themselves. And that's going to fail them at some point. It's going to turn into them not hitting Success Club or getting discouraged or whatever it is. So when you have coaches, or maybe this is you, and you're striving to hit Success Club every single month, when you do it and you hit that goal, the next goal, make sure you do it earlier in the month, okay? Especially the first 2 weeks. If you can get to the point where you're like, okay, I've hit Success Club 3 months in a row, I'm confident in it, I'm going to now hit it in the first 2 weeks. It might take a little bit extra work to make that happen, but the kind of conversations or the quality of conversations that you're having go through the roof, okay? So it's a really, really big deal because now what you're saying to somebody is like, hey, my group starts in 3 weeks, talk to your husband, get a couple paychecks, do whatever you need to do, get ready to change your life. As opposed to, hey girl, we start in the morning, it's $200. What do you think? That doesn't work, okay? And when you get to the point where you're doing that too much, you're selling people so aggressively that you're not even teeing them up to be able to follow up with them. So you're just negatively marketing for your own business. So that's a really important point that we try to work with people to get to that point where they can just, if somebody says no, it was a very easy, appropriate invite, and maybe in the next couple of months we can follow up with them. If you hit Success Club earlier, you're giving those kinds of vibes, okay? And on top of that, one of the biggest things, we talk about multiple business centers. The problem with multiple business centers is now you have to build in multiple places. So this SC5 stuff doesn't work as much anymore. Good problem to have, but yet still a problem. So when you hit Success Club earlier in the month and you just keep going, That's how we went from 5 to 10. And it did not take very long of that proactive approach to where we could hit 10 every single month and eventually go from 10 to 20. And that's about where we sit. I mean, Jamie's had a couple huge months now because everybody's into home fitness right now. But typically that's our mark is SC20. That gives us the ability to build in any business centers that we need. While not, if we only signed 1 or 2 coaches a month, we can only put them in one spot and then we're going on to the next month hoping for no attrition. So I think that's a really important thing for those of you guys who are hitting Success Club and you're like, man, how are these people getting these numbers up? Just push your goal up. Make your goal to be SC5 by the first 10 days of the month. Give yourself an extra 20 days to help your coaches, to set up your groups, to do all those things proactively, and it's going to really, really pay into your business. That's all the content that I have for you guys. We could get into a lot of stuff. If you have any questions, let me know. I've got 15 minutes before Jamie is on another call doing this too. But the one thing I do want to just say to you guys is, like, if it's a belief thing, get it out of your head. Okay. Make a plan, do it right now, have it be wrapped around Success Club and consistency, and just see where it takes you. Cause that's how we got where we're at right now.
Oh my gosh, Steve, that was awesome.
What am I doing?
Oh, that was so good. I love the analogy about the starting and hitting Success Club early on in the month as opposed to later on in the month. I think that's so true for so many of us, us including at times, because you never forget that someone needs to get their tax return before they can buy a $160 challenge pack, and they got to talk to their husband on top of that. So I love that. Such a great tip. If you don't mind, maybe we can open this up for questions. If anybody has any last minute questions,
For sure.
pick your brain. If you have some questions or have a question for Steve, just unmute yourself and ask away. So it looks like Amber's raising her hand. Amber, I'm going to unmute you. Maybe. Amber, there she is.
Good.
Yeah. So when you guys first started, were you like ready right away to like hop into like helping her run the business, or were you like kind of standoffish, gonna see how it plays out? Did she have to like ask you to like help, or like how did that whole process go?
So yeah, I was the latter. She signed me up probably 6 months before I knew she signed me up. And I didn't really care. Fitness was always her thing. Really, and people ask me all the time about spousal support. The number one thing that got me in was money, and it wasn't a ton. It was just consistent. Like when she was making $100 a week doing this, I was hooked because it was her side job. Like it was her little gig that she did for fun. And all of a sudden it was paying our rent and everything like that. So, and I think most guys are like that too. I'm all about the fitness now, but I came in because of the income, because of the business. So that's one thing I'll tell people is, like, if you're working your ass off behind the scenes, your spouse is going to have a lot of respect for that. And when you start making some sort of consistent income, you've got them hooked. Like that's really what guys want to see.
Yes, I always say, like, if you want your spouse on board, you got to prove it to them. You got to prove that the scrolling is worth it, because they see you on the couch working and doing your business activity tracker, and they think you're just scrolling. I mean, $0 is coming in, and 120 a month is going out for Shakeology. So there's a lot of talk going on, but nothing showing for it. So they got to see it. And I think what you hit on is huge about getting results. Like I always say, you can't be a product consumer. You got to be a product prover. Like you've got to show people that it works. There's more power in showing people that it works than, hey, this is me taking my Shakeology and I love it so much that I'm going to kiss it for you on a picture. Like you've got to be proof of the product.
It makes everything so much easier, guys. Like it really does.
Yeah. So I saw one question about how can I learn more about the comp plan. So honestly, whenever I got started into this business, I'll answer that. You can search that in the FAQ in the back office. Or what I did, I learned the most from Googling videos on YouTube of Steve's. I learned a lot from Steve, Googling his videos or YouTubing his videos about what he's done. Checked out the Beachbody Champions page. So the comp plan's like 40 some pages, or you can watch a training from Steve, and it's amazing. So
yeah, I totally agree. What I would do is read the PNP first, because I do think like their graphics are super good on how Team Cycle Bonus works on a very, very basic level. And I kind of breeze through that part of it. Usually when I do that, I kind of show like the bigger parts moving that assume you know that stuff. So that's what I would do, is like look at PNP. It's really the important part is only like maybe 10 pages. So find that important part on Team Cycle Bonus. And honestly, I would just concentrate on Team Cycle Bonus, because the rest of the stuff just falls into your lap without you shooting for it if you just keep going.
Looks like we got a question about what has helped keep you, Steve and Jamie, going on your low days or days that you've considered giving up.
I think the biggest thing is our business partners, is the people underneath us that we're helping. Like when we have a hard day, we show up for them to lead the way. And when they have a hard day, they know we're going to be doing the same thing. And the thing is like for anybody who's gotten really great results, for me, speaking from experience, it took a very high level of accountability to get me to that point. I needed to check in with somebody every single day. The business is the same. So we had that power, being a couple that worked together on it. We certainly knew when each other was, doing great or slacking or whatever it was. But when we locked in with the people on our team and started helping them get to small financial goals, we were hooked. So bad days, like now it's so assumed that we're going to work, whether it's a good or bad day or anything. Like we work every single day except for Christmas. And unless somebody messages us with an important question on Christmas, then we're working then too, So I think that's the biggest thing. And you know what? One thing I should say is like, if you're not there and you don't have business builders on your team, just keep going, because they'll come, you'll find that one will turn into 3 and it will multiply, and you'll get that same feeling. And before you have that, it just always seems like it's never coming. So just keep your head down and just work with your coaches.
Making sure I don't miss anybody here. I have a question, and maybe this will give people more time to come up with questions, but have you ever had an instance where you have a self-proclaimed business builder that their actions are not as such? And how do you handle that? How do you lay that one down?
Hell yes, all the time. All the time. That's like the most common thing. So the first thing is we set those things in there. Like, hey, it's a really, come to Jesus moment for them when it's like, hey, you want to be a business builder? Great. It's May 1st. You have to hit Success Club this month, and I'm all yours for 4 weeks. Like, ask me any question. I'll dive in your DMs. I'll do all this stuff. Like, I will repeatedly help you, and you'll see if they're willing to put that work in. So I think that's one thing I do, is just like give them tasks to do. If they don't do it, move on. The next man up is very, very important for that. Like, you're not going to move on to nobody. You're going to sit there and just hear all those crap excuses for a long time. Another thing we do is we have a business builders page where when you have 1, 2, 3, more than one, I guess, but like if you have a couple people who are striving to hit Success Club every single month, open a Facebook group with your team named Business Builders, and it's just you and those people. So that when somebody is not trying hard and they're a self-proclaimed business builders page and they don't qualify for the business, if they're a self-proclaimed business builder who doesn't qualify for the business builders page, they'll get it real quick. So that's when we transitioned to a business builders page. We had a lot of warm market friends who pretended to work the business for a long time. And that business builders page just was like a line in the sand, because we're like, great, we'll do everything you need us to help you to hit Success Club. And then they still didn't, and they never asked again.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Next question for me is, what are you drinking?
So this is actually from Grand Rapids. Glad you asked. It's called Gray Skies Distillery Breakfast Rye. It's really good. I don't usually drink whiskey by itself, but it's really good.
Nice.
What are you drinking?
I'm drinking some 1792. I made an old fashioned out of it.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's all gone.
Old fashions are my number one.
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys have worked with this, so coaches that don't have a spouse or a boyfriend, how have you helped them see kind of the income success, right? Because it's different when you have the parents, right? So any tips or advice for kind of building?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it doesn't change anything. Really, if you got a spouse, like for instance, I do all the leadership stuff with Jamie. She's an incredible leader too, but she recruits for all of our business centers, so that's like a burden on her. And I think really, if you don't have a spouse or boyfriend or anything, it's just business as usual, because you're going to be able to place business centers inside each other and have it roll up and have it just be easy breezy. And that's kind of what the whole gist is, regardless of whether you're pinching an account or anything like that. And I say pinching an account meaning like I have a spouse who's getting inherited volume. I put a business center on the other side, so it's both rolling up. Yeah, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is just opening that next business center. And honestly, so if you have a business center that's not pinching underneath a spouse and you're signing up directly on your weak leg, it's going to cycle much faster because you're actually putting it in a dead spot when it's underneath a spouse, and you have to make that dead spot come alive. Now you don't have to. You're immediately jumping onto your own volume and you're going to cycle right away. So yeah, it's just business as usual for sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's overemphasized, like do this with your spouse, you can make so much more money, but it's really not that. It's just how to correctly place it. If you have a spouse, you're not going to lose anything without it. And ours aren't even correctly placed. Like Jamie's second business center isn't even on my weak leg. So
yeah, you talked about doing that and learning the hard way. That was awesome. Like, we didn't have anybody to guide us along the way. It was kind of just a shotgun approach. Just hurry up and sign it up before we lose the 2-star and just get it in the bank. So
yeah, we've lost so much money in this business, and we've made it all back by making sure our coaches don't make those same mistakes. Yeah. Do we have business hours? Not really. We've worked so much now. For us, our go time is in the morning. So that's the thing. Jamie's a 5 a.m.er. I usually get up at any time between 6 and 8, just depends on what the kids are doing. But that's her go time. So she'll get a workout in, she'll work, but we're very much morning people for sure. But I do think it is important to match when if you can, make sure that you're making the most of your most motivating time, like when you have the most energy. So if you have a 9-to-5 job, that's either late at night or it's early in the morning, and you got to make one of them work, whatever one's better. How do you learn about the legs? That is what you need to look up at in the PNP, and that's policies and procedures in the FAQ. It's the only reason I'm going to point you there is because that's probably the best place I've seen it. Is those graphics are just very straightforward. And you know what? One of the annoying things is people use so much different terminology: inside, outside, strong, weak, like all this crap. Like a strong leg can be strong until the other one has more volume, and then it just by default is a weak leg. So I would just look in P&P and just know that if you've got a lot of volume coming in on one side, whether that's because you have people building there or because it's attached to your upline or whatever, that's your strong leg. But for us, we had a strong leg early on, and then we worked so hard to build our weak leg that our weak leg became strong and flipped everything. So everything changes.
And, I think the more important thing even before that is you got to hit Success Club.
Yeah.
You got to bring people in before you can worry about weak and strong leg. And if you need help with how to place your coaches, reach out to your upline before, during, or 5 days after you're about to place someone.
Mm-hmm.
It'll help you figure out what your strong leg, what your weak leg is. That's what I recommend.
Yep.
All right, Steve. Well, we won't keep you any longer. I appreciate every minute that you gave to us tonight. I know everybody, all 77 people here did as well. So, however Kelsey and I can repay you, do a team call for you guys or whatever. I'm going to volunteer Kelsey to do it. I think you'll get more for your money with her. But yeah.
I want those Hot Pockets from you. Or what was it? Pizza rolls.
Yeah. But I appreciate it, man. And thank you for your time so much.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yep.